Another controversy this week in the world of Formula One, flexi wings, a clampdown on this. So this has been a thing in F1 for a very, very long time. From the early 2000s, I can remember onboard shots of looking back at the front wing or the rear wing, and you'd see this car as it goes down the straightaway and starts to hit terminal velocity. The wings would bend down and flatten out right at the right point. And so you're like, wow, what is the engineering behind that, right? Well, of course, it's always been around. It will always be around because the teams are going to continually work with materials and that sort of thing to allow these wings to create immense downforce when they want it, and then try and flatten out and get as little drag as possible down the straightaways. So a bunch of teams, the FIA basically clamped down on a bunch of teams this weekend. And yeah, I mean, I think the Aston Martin was one of the ones that was called out on this. And it's always these onboard cameras that seem to catch it, right? The most visibly that there is.
Those darn onboard cameras. I love that. That's cool stuff. That's the innovation in motorsports that you love seeing. It is cool to see like proprietary components and designs that just are superior, but then, things that are innovative, like, what am I trying to say? Interactive with their environment and innovative. That kind of innovation is really cool. We've seen stuff like that that's in NASCAR. That's literally the same thing. I would definitely want to draw it back to NASCAR and give our engineers some credit too, because in NASCAR we haven't had the luxury of designing our wings and designing our spoilers to be able to build them to do that. We've had to work around the parameters through the years. And back when we had steel bodies on our cars, we had all kinds of deflections that you would have on the car to manipulate the body at speed, even though it made it through inspection. So the right side of the car is a really important part of the car. That would always be built in such a way that maybe it had bracing that was really brittle and it would go through inspection and the bracing would be solid. But then when you got on the racetrack, even if you were on the grid, maybe the crew chief would walk by the car and kind of beat into it with his knee and break the brittle brace, so that when you're going 180 miles an hour, it would compress into the side of the car and create, almost like a spoiler on the side of your car. And then, in the super speedways, NASCAR has always watched the deflection in the spoiler quite a bit. So you'll see in inspection, I don't know what they do now with the next gen, but they'd always had kind of like almost a torque wrench type looking tool where they could measure, make sure the spoiler was strong enough that it wasn't trying to deflect. And then one of my favorite little ones, and this was a pretty well-known one, was when a lot of teams were cutting their wraps and manipulating the vinyl wrap, the stickers that wrap the car, with, they would cut them and then make a flap open so that when you get up to speed, it would almost peel up. And believe it or not, that actually could create an aero advantage. So those are the innovations that are exciting in motorsport, and those are the things that are tough when we go all the way back to our common conversation, which is, should we standardize the race cars and cramming down on these rules and stuff. It's funny because we love talking about these little innovations, but yet we also, out of the other side of our mouth, we slap hands on that stuff and say we don't want those things to happen, and we want the cars to be equal and fair, and it's easy to contradict ourselves. But